Every cell in my body wants me to dig into the stew and cram it, handful by handful, into my mouth. But Peeta's voice stops me. You better take it slow on that stew. Remember the first night on the train? The rich food made me sick, and I wasn't even starving then. You're right, and I could just inhale the whole thing, I say regretfully, but I don't. We are quite sensible. We each have a roll, half an apple, and an egg-sized serving of stew and rice. I make myself eat the stew in tiny spoonfuls. They even sent us silverware and plates, savoring each bite. When we finish, I stare longingly at the dish. I want more. Me too. Tell you what, we wait an hour. If it stays down, then we get another serving, Peeta says. Agreed. It's going to be a long hour. Maybe not that long, says Peeta. What was that you were saying just before the food arrived? Something about me, no competition, best thing that ever happened to you? I don't remember that last part, I say, hoping it's too dim in here for the cameras to pick up my blush. Oh, that's right. That's what I was thinking, he says. Scoot over. I'm freezing. I make room for him in the sleeping bag. We lean back against the cave wall, my head on his shoulder, his arms wrapped around me. I can feel Hamish nudging me to keep up the act. So, since we were 5, you never even noticed any other girls? I ask him. No, I noticed just about every girl, but none of them made a lasting impression. But you, he says. I'm sure that would thrill your parents, you liking a girl from the scene, I say. Hardly, but I couldn't care less. Anyway, if we make it back, you won't be a girl from the scene. You'll be a girl from the victor's village, he says. That's right. If we win, we'll each get a house in the part of town reserved for Hunger Games victors. Long ago, when the games began, the capital had built a dozen fine houses in each district. Of course, in ours, only one is occupied. Most of the others have never been lived in at all. A disturbing thought hits me. But then, our only neighbor will be Hamish? Ah, that'll be nice, says Peeta, tightening his arms around me. You and me and Hamish. Very cozy. Picnics, birthdays, long winter nights around the fire, retelling old Hunger Games tales. I told you he hates me, I say, but I can't help laughing at the image of Hamish becoming my new pal. Only sometimes, when he's sober. I've never heard him say one negative thing about you, says Peeta. He's never sober, I protest. That's right. Who am I thinking of? Oh, I know. It's Senna who likes you. But that's mainly because you didn't try to run when he set you on fire, says Peeta. On the other hand, Hamish. Well, if I were you, I'd avoid Hamish completely. He hates you. I thought you said I was his favorite, I say. He hates me more, says Peeta. I don't think people in general are his sort of thing. I know the audience will enjoy our having fun at Hamish's expense. He has been around so long he's practically an old friend to some of them, and after his head dive off the stage at the Reaping, everybody knows him. By this time they'll have dragged him out of the control room for interviews about us. No telling what sort of lies he's made up. He's at something of a disadvantage because most mentors have a partner, another victor to help them, whereas Hamish has to be ready to go into action at any moment. Kind of like me, when I was alone in the arena. I wonder how he's holding up with the drinking, the attention, and the stress of trying to keep us alive. It's funny, Hamish and I don't get along well in person, but maybe Peeta is right about us being alike because he seems able to communicate with me by the timing of his gifts. Like how I knew I must be close to water when he withheld it, and how I knew the sleep syrup just wasn't something to ease Peeta's pain, and how I know now that I have to play up the romance. He hasn't made much effort to connect with Peeta, really. Perhaps he thinks a bowl of broth would just be a bowl of broth to Peeta, whereas I'll see the strings attached to it. A thought hits me, and I'm amazed the question's taken so long to surface. Maybe it's because I've only recently begun to view Hamish with a degree of curiosity. How do you think he did it? Who? Did what? Peeta asks. Hamish. How do you think he won the games? I say. Peeta considers this quite a while before he answers. Hamish is sturdily built, but no physical wonder like Cato or Thresh. He's not particularly handsome, not in the way that causes sponsors to rain gifts on you. And he's so surly it's hard to imagine anyone teaming up with him. There's only one way Hamish could have won, and Peeta says it just as I'm reaching this conclusion myself. He outsmarted the others, says Peta. I nod, then let the conversation drop. But secretly I'm wondering if Hamish sobered up long enough to help Peta and me because he thought we just might have the wits to survive. Maybe he wasn't always a drunk. Maybe in the beginning he tried to help the tributes. But then it got unbearable. I must be held to mentor 2 kids and then watch them die, year after year after year. I realize that if I get out of here, that will become my job, to mentor the girl from District 12. The idea is so repellent. I thrust it from my mind. About half an hour has passed before I decided to have to eat again. Pete is too hungry himself to put up an argument. While I'm dishing up 2 more small servings of lamb stew and rice, we hear the anthem begin to play. Peta presses his eyes against a crack in the rocks to watch the sky. There won't be anything to see tonight, I say, far more interested in stew than the sky. Nothing's happened, or we would have heard a cannon. Katniss, Peta says quietly. What? Should we split another roll, too? Katniss, he repeats, but I find myself wanting to ignore him. I'm going to split one, but I'll save the cheese for tomorrow, I say. I see Peta staring at me. What? Thrush is dead, says Peta. He can't be, I say. They must have fired the cannon during the thunder and we missed it, says Peta. Are you sure? I mean, it's pouring buckets out there. I don't know how you can see anything, I say. I push him away from the rocks and squint out into the dark, brainy sky. And for about 10 seconds, I catch a distorted glimpse of Thrush's picture, and then he's gone. Just like that. I slump down against the rocks, momentarily forgetting about the task at hand. Thrush dead. I should be happy, right? One less tribute to face, and a powerful one, too. But I'm not happy. All I can think about is Thrush letting me go, letting me run because of Rue, who died with that spear in her stomach. You all right? asks Peta. I give a non-committal shrug and cup my elbows in my hands, hugging them close to my body. I have to bury the real pain because who's going to bet on a tribute who keeps sniveling over the deaths of other opponents? Rue is one thing. We were allies. She was so young, but no one will understand my sorrow at Thrush's murder. The word pulls me up short. Murder. Thankfully, I didn't say it out loud. That's not going to win me any points in the arena. What I do say is, it's just, if we didn't win, I wanted Thrush to, because he let me go, and because of Rue. Yeah, I know, says Peta, but this means we're one step closer to District 12. He nudges a plate of foot into my hands. Eat. It's still warm. I take a bite of the stew to show I don't really care, but it's like glue in my mouth and takes a lot of effort to swallow. It also means Cato will be back hunting us. And he's got supplies again, says Peta. He'll be wounded, I bet, I say. What makes you say that? Peta asks. Because Thrush would have neither gone down without a fight. He's so strong, he was. And they were in his territory, I say. Good. The more wounded Cato is, the better. I wonder how Foxface is making out. No, she's fine, I say peevishly. I'm still angry she thought of hiding in the cornucopia, and I didn't. Probably be easier to catch Cato than her. Well, maybe they'll catch each other, and we can just go home, says Peta. But we better be extra careful about the watches. I dozed off a few times. Me too, I admit, but not tonight. We finish our food in silence, and then Peta offers to take the first watch. I burrow down in the sleeping bag next to him, pulling my hood up over my face to hide it from the cameras. I just need a few moments of privacy where I can let any emotion cross my face without being seen. Under the hood, I silently say goodbye to Thrush, and I thank him for my life. I promise to remember him and, if I can, do something to help his family and Rue's, if I win. Then I escape into sleep, comforted by a full belly and the steady warmth of Peta beside me. When Peta wakes me later, the first thing I register is a smell of goat cheese. He's holding out half a roll spread with the creamy white stuff and topped with apple slices. Don't be mad. I had to eat again. Here's your half. Oh, good, I say immediately, taking a huge bite. The strong, fatty cheese tastes just like the kind Prim makes. The apples are sweet and crunchy. We make a goat cheese and apple tart at the bakery, he says. Bet that's expensive, I say. Too expensive for my family to eat. Unless it's gone very stale, of course. Practically everything we eat is stale, Peeta, pulling the sleeping bag up around him. In less than a minute, he's snoring. Huh? I always assumed the shopkeepers live a soft life. And it's true, Peeta has always had enough to eat. But there's something kind of depressing about living your life on stale bread, the hard, dry loaves that no one else wanted. One thing about us, since I bring our food home on a daily basis. Most of it is so fresh you have to make sure it isn't going to make a run for it. Somewhere during my shift, the rain stops, not gradually, but all at once. The downpour ends and there's only the residual drippings of water from branches, the rush of the now overflowing stream below us. A full, beautiful moon emerges, and even without the glasses I can see outside. I can't decide if the moon is real or merely a projection of the game makers. I knew it was full shortly before I left home. Gail and I watched it rise as we hunted into the late hours. How long have I been gone? I'm guessing it's about 2 weeks in the arena, and there was that week of preparation in the capital. Maybe the moon has completed its cycle. For some reason, I badly want it to be my moon, the same one I see from the woods around District 12. That would give me something to cling to in the surreal world of the arena where the authenticity of everything is to be doubted. 4 of us left. For the first time, I allow myself to truly think about the possibility that I might make it home. To fame, to wealth, to my own house in the Victor's village. My mother and Prim would live there with me, no more fear of hunger, a new kind of freedom. But then, what? What would my life be like on a daily basis? Most of it has been consumed with the acquisition of food. Take that away and I'm not really sure who I am, what my identity is. The idea scares me some. I think of Hamish with all his money. What did his life become? He lives alone, no wife or children, and most of his waking hours drunk. I don't want to end up like that. But she won't be alone, I whispered to myself. I have my mother and Prim. Well, for the time being. And then, I don't want to think about then. Then Prim has grown up. My mother passed away. I know I'll never marry, never risk bringing a child into the world. Because there's one thing being a Victor doesn't guarantee. It's your children's safety. My kids' names would go right into the reaping balls with everyone else's, and I swear I'll never let that happen. The sun eventually rises, its light slipping through the cracks and illuminating Peeta's face. Who will he transform into if we make it home? This perplexing, good-natured boy who can spin out lies so convincingly the whole of Panem believes him to be hopelessly in love with me. And I'll admit it, there are moments when he makes me believe it myself. At least we'll be friends, I think. Nothing will change the fact that we've saved each other's lives in here, and beyond that, he will always be the boy with the bread. Good friends. Anything beyond that, though? And I feel Gail's gray eyes watching me, watching Peeta, all the way from District 12. Discomfort causes me to move. I scoot over and shake Peeta's shoulder. His eyes open sleepily, and when they focus on me, he pulls me down for a long kiss. We're wasting hunting time, I say, when I finally break away. I wouldn't call it wasting, he says, giving me a big stretch as he sits up. So do we hunt on empty stomachs to give us an edge? Not us. We stuff ourselves to give us staying power. Count me in, Peeta says. I can see he's surprised when I divide the rest of the stew and rice and hand a heaping plate to him. All this? We'll earn it back today, I say, and we both plow into our plates. Even cold, it's one of the best things I've ever tasted. I abandon my fork and scrape up the last dabs of gravy with my finger. I can feel Effie Trinket shuddering at my manners. Hey, Effie, watch this, says Peeta. He tosses his fork over her shoulder and literally licks his plate clean with his tongue, making loud, satisfied sounds. Then he blows a kiss out to her, in general, and calls out, We miss you, Effie. I cover his mouth with my hand, but I'm laughing. Stop! Kato could be right outside our cave. He grabs my hand away. What do I care? I've got you to protect me now, says Peeta, pulling me to him. Come on, I say in exasperation, extricating myself from his grasp, but not before he gets in another kiss. Once we're packed up and standing outside our cave, our mood shifts to serious. It's as though for the last few days, sheltered by the rocks and the rain and Kato's preoccupation with Rush, we were given a respite, a holiday of sorts. And now, although the day is sunny and warm, we both sense we're really back in the games.